Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special Black History Month edition of Industry Insider. My name is Matt Jones, and I am the Director of Corporate Communications here at TrueCar, and I am joined by Carrie Weiss, who is the Vice President of Corporate Communications here at TrueCar. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, how's it going, Matt? This is really exciting.
This is very, very, very exciting. We've been doing this for what, a little bit more than a year, or close to a year now, right?
Yeah, Industry Insider, and we've never had a Black History Month celebration, really. I mean, in the company, in the 5 years I've been here. So to be doing stuff internally, to be doing some stuff externally, it's been a lot of fun more than anything.
It has been a lot of fun. And it's one of those moments where you take a second and you look back, you stop and you look back and you say, we're in a pretty good position because we have an employer that not only allows for this kind of conversation, but it's actually encouraging it. For those who are on the call who did not know, we had a Black History panel. Think of a TED Talk, but we called it a True Talk since it's TrueCar. Earlier in the month, Carrie and I participated, a few other colleagues participated to give our colleagues and employee a little bit of understanding what it's like to be Black in America. On top of that, we've also done some other things, like we've been sharing some notable automotive luminaries, historical luminaries on our social media platforms, talking about people who shaped our everyday lives, like the inventor of the traffic light, first dealership producer, or the first dealer producer, African-American heritage. And we're going to be continuing to share those all month long. So it's really, really great to be in an employer that it's allowing you to have this conversation, but really, really pushing it forward. So
yeah, and Matt, you forgot about movie night. So that we're gonna as a company watch the movie Selma and have a discussion about it tomorrow. So there's so many things going on, and it won't just be Black History Month. It's really going to be all these heritage months this year that as a company we're going to start really diving deep in, not just from a celebration standpoint, but more from an educational standpoint.
Right. And the educational standpoint is very, very important. And that's one of the reasons why we are having this conversation today, because we know so many people in here, we're busy with our own lives. We don't take the time necessarily to go out and find these extra pieces of information. So now we've got a platform where we're going to share some stuff with you that you're going to find very, very interesting. And we promise this is going to be a good use of your time. If this is your first time tuning in, I want to tell you a little bit about Industry Insider for just a moment. Industry Insider is a show that Carrie and I kicked off in the spring of last year as we were all getting adjusted to this new world that we're living in. And the idea was to create a platform that can help make the automotive industry a little bit better by bringing on some of the best and brightest minds to share what they were doing to please consumers in this crazy new world. And we've decided we want to keep this going into the future, but why not open the conversation up to expand upon just dealers and bring in other industry bright minds? And you're going to see an effect of that today with today's show.
Hey, Matt, have we told everybody to share this?
No.
Share this. If you haven't, make sure, because we want to make sure as many people are watching this as possible. And particularly on this one, because we're going to be talking about our experiences here, as Black people in the automotive industry. We posted a couple things earlier, and I don't want to bring up anything negative, but we got some comments on our Black History Month posts, one or two, that were like, why are we acknowledging Black History Month? Like, why? Why not just acknowledge American history, right? And Matt, I don't know if we're going to touch on that, but maybe you could answer that. Let's start with some controversy.
I think the important thing to consider is that, Black Americans are Americans. And if we're going to be talking about our history as a country, it's disingenuous. It's a missed opportunity to not include all facets of American history, including Black history. And for a lot of us who got our primary information, going to school, public schools, private schools, whatever it is, in some cases, it feels like it could be slightly glossed over. And I'm being very delicate and diplomatic when I say that. So now that we have opportunities to share a little bit more information, the opportunity is right, because people are asking for it, and the need is probably just as great as it's been at any time that I can remember in my lifetime. So we're sharing this proudly. And again, we're super happy to have such an incredible array of people with us today to share their insights on something that matters to all of us, whether you're Black, white, brown, purple, green, alien, We all love automotive. As a matter of fact, I've been in auto for 20 years and I love it. And how long have you been in auto, Carrie?
Let's see, I'm going to age myself, but I guess it's been about 22 years. Started when I was 5 years old.
Yes, when you were 5 years old. Yes, that's right. That's right. So, we are slightly limited on time. So you know what, Carrie, how about if we just jump in and tell the people and introduce the folks who are going to be joining us today?
Yeah. So let's start off with ladies first. My girl, Amanda Gordon. She is the owner of Gojo Auto. And here's a fun fact about her. She is the very first Black woman to own a car dealership or have a dealer license in the state of Colorado. And there's one other important fact. She's one of the founders, along with me and two others, of Women of Color Automotive Network, which is a network of women of color we're trying to attract more women of color to the business. We're trying to retain more to the business. So she's a powerful woman. We're so glad to have her. Matt, who else do we have? Oh, there she is.
There she is. It's the Amanda Gordon. It is so nice to see you.
Thank you for that intro, Carrie. I appreciate it. And it's such an honor to be here. This is so beautiful for TrueCar doing this. And I agree, TrueCar has really stepped up with recognizing the importance of Black History Month and other heritage months. And it's just an honor to be here with my fellow comrades in arms. Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
And Amanda is a TrueCar dealer. I just have to note that. And
premier TrueCar
dealer.
She is one.
And Amanda, this is your second time on the show.
Second or third?
Second or third? I don't know. I mean, you're
veteran. I watch you guys all the time, and I love what you're doing.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
Next up, I would like to introduce the one and only Sonari Glinton. I think many of you will know that name. Sonari is the executive director at D-Light Media, and he is a podcaster. He's a content creator. He is a longtime contributor to NPR. He's been covering automotive for well more than a decade. So with that, I'd like to bring on Mr. Sonari Glinton.
Sonari!
Hello, good to be with you.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Sonari. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you so much. Carrie, who's next?
All right, up next. And by the way, Sonari, you have the best name. I just got to compliment you on the name, Sonari Glinton. You put us all to shame in terms of your name. You have a beautiful name.
Yeah,
so thank you for being here. All right, so up next, Dan Bannister. He is the owner of Bannister Nissan of Norfolk, Bannister Nissan of Chesapeake. And here's another important fact about him. He is a 2021 Time Dealer of the Year nominee. Big time. Thank you, Dan, for joining us.
Oh, Dan.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for
Thank
allowing
you so
me to be
much
here today. Hey, what does Sonari have? Is that an ice cream cone or something? What is that?
oh my goodness. Actually, this is speaking of Black history, this is Mary McLeod Bethune, and it was the National Council of Women Award that was given to Diane Carroll in 1968. And I got it at an auction. I was like, I walked past an auction house. No, yeah, this is real. I walked past an auction house and I was like, the security guard was like, brother, you better come in here. And I walked in and they were selling Diane Carroll's things. And I was the only Black gay man. And I was like, I need to represent. So I bought all of her, or not all, but I bought like essentially all of her awards. And then I gave them out to friends and things like that. But this was the one that I actually was like, I bought the whole lot just to get this one.
Wow.
I thought it was so beautiful.
What a story!
Because I might sell it still, you know. I mean, you know, I am a Black man. I have to, you know, the hustle is forever.
And talk about Black History Month.
Yes.
Bethune-Cookman College that was named after Mary Bethune, right? Yeah, that's awesome.
Glad to be here.
Next up, I want to introduce my main man, Mr. Jeff Breland. Now, Jeff, super duper automotive vet, more than 23 years experience throughout the industry. We don't have time to talk about all the different aspects of the industry that he has touched. He's former dealer, former everything. He is a master trainer for NADA, and he is a dealer consultant really focusing on dealer finance. So my main man, Mr. Jeff Breland, I'm going to bring you on right now.
Hello, how's it going?
Jeff.
Good to see you.
Man. Jeff, you're best dressed. You're not only experienced, but you're best dressed of the group.
Yeah, but y'all let Sonari come on with the story.
It's hard to come on after that, man. I'm sorry.
This burnt orange on my tie is not for Bethune-Cookman. It's for Florida A&M. So we're just gonna get that out the way up front. Mary McLeod Bethune did a thing as well, I'm sure.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Next up, our final guest. He is the glue of the bunch because everybody knows him. His name is Damon Lester. He is the president of NAMAD, which is the National Association of Minority Auto Dealers. I'm so glad I got that right. Welcome, Damon Lester. Hey,
hello.
Damon.
What's going on, everyone? How y'all doing?
Tranche.
Good. I'm doing good. Damon, you are the most connected man in the business. And you also have one of the best conferences in the business. I got to note that. If you haven't been to NAMAD, you are missing out.
The best.
The best.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I feel attacked. All right, guys. We're going to jump in because we've got a lot of people watching. Oh, and for the people who are watching, we've got some questions laid out here that we think that you're going to enjoy. Please submit questions if you like. Can't promise that we'll get to them today, but because of time. But if we don't, we will do our best to make sure that we get these questions answered for you. And I'm going to kick us off if everybody is okay with that. All right, are we all right with that? Okay. So I think before anything, I think we need to just really address the elephant in the room. We have to acknowledge that, compared to our forefathers and our predecessors, as a segment of the American population, Black people, we've made some progress. But there will be some who would say, well, you guys have made a whole lot of progress. You've had a Black president. You've got a current, VP who's Black. Why do we even need to still talk about race in 2021? I mean, you guys hit the top of the mountain. So to set the framework for the whole conversation, that is the first question. Why do we still need to talk about race in 2021?
Is that open to everybody? Or?
That is open to everybody.
Damon, jump in. Let's call on somebody first. Jamin.
Okay, so I would say one, there's not parity, right? So when you look at why, the why is that the scale is not equal. And when you look at why the scale is not equal is because of let's say, our unintentional late start to try to achieve parity. And so until there's some economic parity, I don't think the scales will ever be equal for any of us to say that we've all arrived, because of the fact that we are still trying to gain a lot of ground that was lost. We're still trying to gain equality and being treated and achieve all of America's promises like others. And so I think that question is a good one. I get it a lot, but I think until we achieve parity and be on the same level from an economic standpoint, then we will still have to fight.
Amanda, I see you nodding your head. We have our first ever Black woman as a vice president. Have we arrived as Black women?
We are, all of us here, I'm sure, our ancestors' wildest dreams, right? And we have come so far. But when you look at the picture of the 45 presidents and the 45 VPs, there's one of each of color. Like Damon mentioned, we still have a long way to go because of that late start, that unintentional late start. And I could only imagine where we would be if we had the same opportunities that were afforded people that don't look like us. So there is still some work to do, but we have the seats at the table now so that change can start happening maybe a little bit quicker.
Absolutely. Jeff, you looked like you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, just to echo and come on the back of what Amanda and Damon was saying, just to bring it into right now, the numbers bear out that in recent years we've had a SAR, a seasonally adjusted annual rate of new car sales of 17 million. And when we look at the persons who are buying those vehicles, over 30% of those were minorities. When we look at new car dealership ownership, and we realize that minorities own less than 7% of all new car stores, there seems to be a parity. We can be consumers, but not producers. So going in line with the statement that Amanda made about how we are in comparison to our forefathers and mothers. My mother has a master's degree, but she grew up picking cotton. Neither one of my grandfathers could read or write. And for me to be in this situation is a blessing. But the flip side is that there's a reason why there are few industries, in the car business in particular, where there is a huge disparity in ownership versus the ability to buy as a consumer. And the head start that Damon mentioned goes to the high barrier for entry that many minorities face coming into the business, because it is so cash intensive that many of us are not benefited from generational wealth, which makes it difficult for us to have the capital to go in from the start.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one thing. Jeff nailed it for me, is that just the amount of capital that it takes to own and operate a dealership, just to get in from the ground level. We don't have a lot of people that have that type of generational wealth that can assist. I mean, we have me. I'm a first time. Dealer. I mean, I don't come from a history of my dad and my dad's dad, and in many of the stores out there, especially where Damon is, you've got these guys that have been in the business for 30, 40 years, and they're just gifted the stores from their parents, and we don't have that benefit. And I truly believe it all started with the promise of 40 acres and a mule. When that was taken away from there, I think we'd be having a totally different conversation, because when that happened and those things were taken away from, that land was taken away from, ancestors, many years ago, that set us back right then, and now we have to play catch up. And what I say is that, I have to run twice as fast and work twice as hard just to get to the same level. And I'm okay with that. I know the rules of the game, but just, with in almost every setting that we're in, when you start moving up the ladder, there's only maybe one of us that are sitting at the table. And Damon and I were joking about this the other day when we were on the Time Dealer of the Year. And there was Damon, who stood in for a Hispanic dealer, and then myself, and that was it out of the 40 dealers that we have. And I'm used to that, because Damon said, this is what it used to. All the boards that I serve on, majority of them are dominated by people that don't look like us. And for me, I just want to get a seat at the table and be able to bring more people there that are qualified. And we have a lot of qualified minorities out there, and Damon does such a good job of mirroring those up with the OEMs, and there's probably a handful of them, maybe 6 or 7 of them, maybe 4 or 5 that have very good programs that you don't need millions of dollars to get into the entry, and that's one of the areas that I think that Damon has really helped minority dealers and minorities in getting access to getting those nicer stores. But it's also when a person like myself or Amanda or whatever, we get there, that we can help somebody else and bring them up. So I think that, part of it is, coming from the OEMs, and part of it's coming from and it's not just the car dealerships, but in any aspect, is when you have reached some level of success, is go down and help somebody else. Right. And some of our and I hate to say this, some of our Jewish brothers and sisters, they do a great job of that. They support, they sell to everyone, but buy from each other. And I think that we have to do a lot more of that, is supporting ourselves as a community and uplifting one another.
Sonari, I know you wanted to jump in. We're going to talk about solving it, but what would you say to someone to say, haven't we already arrived? Right? You got a black president, black VP.
Well, one of the most important things I think that people don't understand is that we're all in this together, which is when you think about where did most of the growth come from after World War II, when people think we're our halcyon days. Well, 50% of the growth in the post-World War came because we let women and black people into the economy. Right? My grandfather walked from Georgia to Detroit to get a job in a factory. Right? That means what people don't get is it's much better for me to be an economics correspondent for the economy than a sharecropper. Like, I'm doing more for the global economy that means that I am buying steaks that's going into your pocket. I'm buying cars. When I'm liberated, when a Black woman is, if Black, it's interesting, the chief labor economist is a child of an auto worker in the labor department. She understands that when, for instance, if we center the economy around Black women, then what economy is doing incredible? I mean, poorly for white men, that's doing incredible for Black women. Like, in what universe are Black women winning and white men losing? Like, that is because when we have economic opportunity, that means there's more opportunity for all of us. It makes the winners from letting us into the door were white people. But they won when they let us in. The more you let us in, the better it is for all of us, especially in the auto industry, because you think that the next frontier and what China is looking for is the continent of Africa. Brazil, Russia, India, China, that's right now. But coming over the horizon with the most people are going to be solving the transportation issues of Africa. Who's going to be able to understand that?
Oh, yeah, right. A couple things you guys brought up that were so important. One is a lot of people don't know our history, right? So when you said 40 acres and a mule, Dan, there's people that don't know what you are even talking about that are watching this right now.
You got to know about
look that up, right? Mm-hmm. Look up black codes, look up Jim Crow. I mean, I can go on and on. Look up redlining. Mm-hmm. All these things were a part of our history going through the 60s, really, through our parents' generation. And if you don't know that history, it's really easy to simplify it and say, well, there's not enough Black dealers because they're not working hard enough, or they're not leaders, or, and oversimplify it. And then to Sonari's point, it's not a zero-sum game. If Black women succeed, it doesn't mean white women don't, or white men don't, right? So it's powerful. Matt, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no, go on.
Yeah, so I think that's really powerful. But I want to jump in. Let's jump into a couple other things. We're going to talk about some solutions in a second. So just hold on to your solutions. But I want to talk about you personally. Thinking about your automotive career, have you faced any unique challenges that you can attribute to being a Black person in your automotive career? And I'm going to start with Dan. Sorry, you're not.
I would say I've been pretty fortunate in that. And when I came into the car business with Jeff Breland, we actually we worked together for a while back in 1998. I started in 1992, and for me, we worked for an organization that really didn't promote Black people. And, and I knew that, and, they kept dangling the carrot and all that kind of stuff. And I had to make decisions to move on. So for me, it was just that, all right, I got to a certain point, and then I'm moving on from there. And I didn't sit there and wait for the carrot to fester and be able to just continue to nibble on it and turn and get nothing. So I gave myself a time limit with each position that I had, and then I moved on from there. And, one of the things I think that we get caught up in is that car business is a very lucrative business, and that if we just get enamored by the money that we're making, because back then, Jeff and we were making very good money, and if we just stayed content with that, and just say, I never thought I was going to make this much money and all that kind of stuff, and just stayed where we were, then that's one of our downfalls, is that we just like they talk about kids buying sneakers and getting all this stuff and not really understanding the value of money and all that. Well, for me, it was being able to grow and continue to move on to the next level. So when I left Jeff back in 1998, I moved on to another position, and I wasn't necessarily making more money, but it was a step to get to where I wanted to be. So, I think that we just can't get caught up in how much money that we're making, and thinking that that just appreciate all the person or the dealer giving us money and not realizing that there's a lot more opportunity around that if we don't sit there and be stagnant and be comfortable and content to where we are and always want to grow. And that's what kept me going, is that didn't want to, at some point in a few years in there, I got content because I was making good money. But then I said, hey, it's not about the money. It's about the growth, and it's about the opportunities that I'll have later on if I'm willing to take a step back financially and not just focus on the money being made.
Good point. Jeff, do you want to jump onto that? What unique challenges have you faced as a
just thinking about, going back and we're chronicling these years. Dan got in the business in 92. I got in the business in 96. We were both finance managers, in the 90s. And we were both in Charlotte, North Carolina, where folks don't realize that, they weren't even Black salespeople on the front end of a store to the mid 80s. So we're coming in and we were managers within 10, 12 years of people being able to see us sell a car in that market. And Charlotte's a great market, great city. It's 55% minority, but that was our reality. Well, when I think back and look at what Dan did, and he didn't realize things that I did. So they were a little ahead of me. And, I saw them leave for other opportunities. And I ended up doing the same thing. We were with a great group, had a lot of stores, but they had no Black GMs. There was no pipeline for us. We had carrots dangled, but the truth of the matter is we didn't see it as real opportunities. Now, we had to make a decision. Either we were going to stay or we were going to bet on ourselves and leave. But I've had told to me, even during my time at NADA, if I looked at your resume and I see you went here, 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 I wouldn't hire you. It wasn't that I was being fickle. I was looking for an opportunity. I was looking for a shot. My first GM job, I have to fly 700 miles away to Chicago, to a city I've never been to the third largest market in the country, to run a Ford store that, when I didn't find out until I got there, had 7 Ford stores within 10 miles. Right. Well, if you can figure this out, then you can get another shot. So, from there, either you get hamstrung, or you get into a situation where you bet on yourself, and because there isn't a line of us who we could rely on and lean on, everybody will scramble trying to do their own thing. We don't have the same kind of options if we fail. So there is no, I can pick you up. Listen, let me put you into a GSM role, get you together, put you in a smaller store. No, it's either pass, fail, and that's very, very difficult for us to continue to go on with the pipeline when you have those kinds of challenges inherently. And then you have others tell us, well, maybe Black people don't want to be in the car business. That's not true. We just want to be successful.
Yes.
I want to hear from Sanari, because Sanari has a different perspective on automotive, covering it from an OEM perspective. And so what about you, Sanari? Have you had any challenges that you would attribute to maybe the way you look in this industry?
Well, what's funny? It's like in a way, I was thinking about that wearing a Jackie Robinson hat, and it's like if you think about it, I grew up. My mom worked at Ford. All of her best friends were essentially supervisors or worked on the assembly line. And I realized that when I was at NPR and going to cover the auto industry, that actually, that was a leg up. Because in my brain, cars are feminine because they come from my mother. Like everything I know about a car comes from my mom or her female friends, right? And so I realized that actually then was the advantage, because that's who buys all the cars anyway. Like, why do I need? And the other advantage was I didn't need to worry about the minutia of anything, because I don't have to know anything about an actual car, because my mom was she was a line supervisor, but the stock foreman at a Ford plant. So she literally remembers every single part of a car. So I didn't have to work this being the child. I honestly thought at some point that it should be a secret how deeply Black the car experience is, and how almost anything I do can in my life. My cousin works at the Jefferson plant, building Jeeps. My grandfather was a union organizer. I was like, oh, why go and figure out something new? The auto industry is inherently Black and inherently something that I can relate to and a story that I can tell. And the if anything, I've had some German executives dismiss me, and to their detriment, like on the stock market, because they said, that's one of the great things about being a journalist is like, you don't know. I'm from NPR. I got a microphone. You can dismiss me if you want. Go ahead. I mean, try. That's fun. Right? And that's actually, so I've never, like, all of the bad experiences of like, yeah, go ahead, dismiss the Black guy with the microphone if you want to.
That's power.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, yeah, there have been problems, but it's usually related to getting in and out of auto shows and things like that, which is everyday Black man problems. But like once I'm in and in the thing, it's like I just it's a different thing to come to the Detroit Auto Show as a Black man covering it, when like from the people cleaning up everywhere. It's like, it's very, very different. And I think it's an advantage that my white colleagues honestly don't have.
Sonari, I want to ask you something, because you have your hat on, and we were talking about your Mary Bethune, statue, and really you're embracing your Blackness. Let me just say it like that. You're embracing your Blackness, right? And a lot of times we have to, what they call code switch, right? Where we have to kind of maybe pull back from our Blackness in order to fit in, or some people do that. Do you feel like you need to do that in your profession in terms of kind of code switch depending on your audience, or do you think you're judged or underestimated when you are keeping it real?
Well, I think that what it's interesting is I think we're all master. Every person's master. Every Black person's a master code switcher, right? It's like everyone knows all the jokes, but I really think that what it really was me understanding actually an audience or a thing that that other people don't understand about, whether it's the Black consumer or those things. I just remember, and I've always had fun with it, right? I will remember when a new Cadillac came out, and I was standing with like 4 executives for Cadillac, and I loved the new car, like for real, like a Black man loves a Cadillac, as I say to people, because it's just true, right? I just like, their numbers have borne it out. If there was if like Cadillac really embraced that heritage, I can't imagine. I would want to buy one. I want to buy one anyway, right? So I'm standing there because everybody I know who was important to me drove a Cadillac, and I said to these executives, "Oh my God, you've done it well. This Cadillac has brought out the Black man that's hiding inside of it." And you could have heard a rat piss on cotton. It was like the funniest moment, because it was so true. It's like, you made me I want to kiss you. You made me want to buy a Cadillac, and they didn't get it. And I was like, that's why you won't get selling it to me. That's why you won't understand. Like, if you miss me, and I'm an NPR person, and I'm willing to give you my money, like, you ain't gonna get my cousin and those people, right? And that's like that. I always think, like, the more real I am, it's like, I know I'm a Black man. I live in West Hollywood. I don't want a German car. I want a car. Like, that is. But if they get us, then you open up an opportunity to all kinds of markets, selling all kinds of things. It's like, it's so, the money that people are missing out. That's what I think of when I look, like, as I cover things. I was like, go ahead, waste your money, because, like, I'm telling you, like,
you're missing out.
I can help you. Anyway,
Damon, what about you? Unique challenges as a Black person in this industry, or what have you seen?
Yeah, you know what, I was thinking about that, and I got a real life case right now that a young man that just graduated from college in Jersey, and he wanted to be in the industry. So I don't know, I guess he saw a podcast or something I was on in LinkedIn, and he reached out to me last week. And I took a note about this, and oddly enough, it's still on my desk, and it says the dealer told him that he's never seen a Black successful as a retailer. 2021. The dealer that he works for told him that he's never seen a Black be successful as a retailer.
Does he know Dan Bannister and Amanda Gordon?
So this young man, he called me like he was all distraught because he aspired to become a dealer.
Right.
And if he didn't have the opportunity to know that to reach out to us or someone, because he didn't know any other retailers that were Black, right? So there's only 265 Blacks, and Dan has 2 of those dealerships, right? So he would have been crushed. 2021. And so every day it's something different, whether you're in the room with the administration on Capitol Hill, there's always typically it's just me in the room. To be honest, it's just me. And so it's kind of like you got to be that hybrid kind of with scenario. We're saying they see you, particularly if a person of color sees you in the room, they give you you give the nod, like on Blackish, right? You're like, oh yeah, you hip in here. So you have this little quiet conversation amongst people that look like us. But in many instances, we see that we're not considered equal because we don't have equality or look like them. And so there's that power of I have more than you. You guys are just minority. You guys got a handout all the time. You want this, you want that. And in many instances, our guys outperform white dealers. That's just facts. It's straight data. And so we're not inadequate people. We just want to be treated as equal as anything. I know what Sonari made reference to. We are the innovators of every vehicle out today. The way the rims look, the systems look, all of that is us. That's our culture. That's our culture. Jeff gave the data, 30% of all new cars and trucks are minority owned. That's 17 million and 30%. That's a huge market share, but we are the innovators. There's not a Cadillac SUV. There's not a Lincoln out there that does not have an urban/minority feel because we made that.
Yeah. And speaking of that, you guys saw the Black History Month post, or it wasn't Black History Month. It was a Black Lives Matter post that Cadillac put that said, Cadillac would not be Cadillac without the outstanding contributions of Black people. While we made the cars, Black Americans made our cars a lifestyle. So that was, and listen, that was just one post, but it was a powerful one. Amanda, I saved you for last because on this question of unique challenges, because me and you are the women in this group.
Yes.
And so therefore we are the double minority.
We're the elephant inside the elephant.
Yes, we are the most underrepresented group in all of automotive, being at 6% of the industry.
Yes.
Right. 18% of the labor force, but only 6% of the industry. And we are the double minority in terms of being Black, but also being women, which is incredibly hard in the automotive business. So what has your challenges been?
Well, it's difficult and such a blessing. In today's climate, I wear it like a superhero cape. There's so much power in like you gentlemen. When I walk into a room, it's all white men, right? Very few minorities and very few women, if any. And it used to make me nervous, but now I wear it with power because they're not me. And there's so much strength in that, in our culture. And they look to me for answers and advice now, which is kind of crazy, but it happens through osmosis. So when I first got into the business 19 years ago, and like Carrie, I started when I was 5, I I never thought I could be in management or ownership because there was no one that looked like me, not a minority, not a woman. So my imagination wasn't that vast, and I just couldn't see it, right? And thanks to organizations like NAMAD and now WOCAN, Women of Color Automotive Network, we not only can see it, but it's there, it's thriving, it's beautiful. And organizations like those, we put ourselves out there. Because my dream and my passion is for a little girl in elementary or high school, when she's asked what she wants to be when she grows up, she says Amanda Gordon. She wants to be a car dealer, and it's looked at as a positive. The other day I was at a jewelry store. When I went to make my purchase, the woman said, "Are you dating a Bronco?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "Oh, you're a Broncos cheerleader." Okay, first of all, give me a break. And when I told her what I did, she looked at me like I was speaking Latin, okay, when I told her I owned a car dealership. Not with my husband, not with my daddy, but me, right? Started with 2 cars and social media, and here I am. And so, it takes us pioneers to not only do it, but to get out there and to talk about it, to preach about it, because the auto industry is so lucrative, like Dan said. It's fun, it's sexy, it's cars, for crying out loud. Who wouldn't want to do it, right? And so I get excited, right? This is my life. It's not my job. I am a car girl true and through. And kind of like Sonari, I don't know nothing about cars. Don't need to. I know people. Okay. And I know this industry. I can say that because I'm a student of it. I'm steady learning, I'm steady growing, and I'm steady teaching. My staff is 80% women, gift and a curse. It comes with its own challenges. And it's through representation, it's 100% minority. And it just happened because they see me and we connect, right? We have unique experiences. We talk about what we had to eat for dinner and what our kids are doing, and they're the same. It's similar. We have multiple conversations. When I walk into a room full of white men, there are things that I just can't talk about. We code switch, right? I dress differently. I wear my hair in a bun. They're not ready for that blonde afro. So there's things that we have to do differently, but you have to do it to get a seat at the table, because without that seat, we can't make change.
Yeah, and someone has to make it in.
Somebody's got to make it in, and somebody's got to stay there, right? We got to stay there, and then we've got to pull up. We've got to pull up. We've got to pull up. So unique experiences, not only being a minority, but being the only woman minority. But per this instance, but through us comes change, and I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, it's funny, as a woman, I often debate what's harder, right? I think sometimes gender can be harder in the automotive industry, but I was at a conference, speaking at the conference. I'm one of the keynote speakers. I'm at a table with dealers, and I'm paying for their dinner, right? Because I'm from TrueCar, and I'm going to take a bunch of dealers out to eat for a steak dinner before the conference. And I hear a gentleman talking to a manager who works for me, and he saw TrueCar on the agenda of speakers, and he says, "Hey, Ruben, what are you speaking on tomorrow?" Now, Ruben works for me. So Ruben, I hear him say, "Well, no, my boss, Carrie, is speaking." And the dealer says, "What? She's your boss?" And he goes, "And she's speaking tomorrow?" And starts laughing. And it's those rare moments that you actually hear someone out of their mouth who underestimated you, and therefore was treating you, talking down to you,
right,
mansplaining to you,
right.
And that gets tough at times. Mm-hmm. That gets tough. And I got to tell you, I didn't say a word. I listened to the guy say it. And when it came time, when that bill came, I put my corporate car down and slammed it down and paid for his damn steak.
Like a spade.
You're only eating because of me. And when it came to the conference the next day, I spoke at that conference and stared at him the whole time. And he came up to me after. So it's those moments where it's grace, and it's just letting it go, because you can't get caught up in that, and then you just have to prove people wrong, and then I think we always have to do that.
Yeah, but grace in proving people wrong, it's a burden. You're right. It's a burden. You're walking around with a 50-pound weighted vest on, because we have to be graceful and always be aware that we're we might be one of one. And anytime you're one of one, like Dan, who's 6'7", no matter what somebody's intention is, they're going to be looking at you and watching you. So you always got to have hope with race. I got a question. I want to go back to something that Damon said, and I want to touch on this. So this question is for you, Damon. We were talking about underrepresentation of Black people in automotive, and you said something that really stuck out. I think there's something like 18,000 or so dealers in the country, and you said only about 260 of them are owned by Black people. And I think that I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that I've heard that there's only 70 dealerships or so that are owned by women of any color, or women of color. So we've got 18,000 dealerships, only 260 or so are run by Black folks, only 70 or so are run by women of color. What is the reason for this disparity? Now, this question's for everybody, but I want to hit Damon first with that. What do you think the cause of that is?
I think one is, and I'll dig down a little bit deeper, of that 70 is less than 6 are African American.
Wait, would you say that just once more?
So of that 70 total minority, less than six are African American.
Now, you're talking about dealerships?
Women of color?
Black women.
Yes. Okay, got it. So of the 70 dealers that are owned by women of color, only 6 of them are Black women.
And this is a big country.
Ooh, yeah.
Damon, you're talking about dealerships total, not necessarily dealer. So for instance, Dan is one of the 265, but he has 2 stores.
No, that's
so you're talking about.
That's dealership 6. If you want to do body count, 4.
Wow.
So Matt, it's a challenge, and I think for women, all in our industry, it's a challenge because there's this 99% male-driven industry. Women historically are don't see an entry point because of the hours and all of those types of deterrents that historically have been placed in our industry that deter women or people of color to want to be in from a sales, whatever leadership standpoint, that that's too much time I'm gonna take away from my family. And employers today, I think, are doing a better job than historically than trying to marry and bring some type of fairness to the amount of time. But I think we have to do a better job with introducing this to women. We don't. Majority on the non-minority side, right? A lot of women are successors, and have created like Dan mentioned earlier, 3rd, 4th, 5th generation, right? So you have that, and where our side of it of the scale is 99% of 1st generation. And so we haven't been able to get to that cycle of creating that generational wealth. And I use this example a lot is when you look at our dealer body as a whole, most of our dealers in their first 30-year mortgage.
Right.
I mean, that's just facts. When you think about putting the standpoint of a mortgage, 30-year mortgage, we're in that first tranche. We haven't been able to pay off those mortgages in the scheme of things, right? Some have, but we have to do a better job with marketing ourselves and marketing our industry and presenting women in areas that they can see other women being in these types of roles. Like we have the Janelle Rosses, we have the Juanita Barrancos, we have the Gail Martins and Amber Martin. We have those people out there that we know as pillars, but we need to increase that footprint so that we can multiply that. We have the Amanda, so we have to be able to do a better job with spreading that and getting those olive branches out and looking more on an earlier or younger demographic versus an older demographic. Our demo needs to be high school. Not 35. To be honest, we need to hit them early.
Right.
Because if we don't start to hit that age demographic early, we're just going to recreate this cycle. Because just from a historical standpoint, Carrie and Matt, when dealers first, and Jeff and Dan, you guys know, when they got their first deals back in the 80s because of these programs, they were recruited outside of our industry.
That's right. Correct.
Most of those guys didn't get their stores that we know today, didn't get their stores till their mid-40s.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about solutions now. I want to jump to that. And Matt, I want to make sure we leave some time if there are any questions that have come in too. I want to talk about attracting more Black people to this industry. And then I want to talk about how we retain it. So let's think of those in two separate things. How do we attract more to this industry? Because there are dealers, there are manufacturers, there are vendors that are telling us that, hey, they just don't apply. We put the jobs out there. We just, for some reason, can't get any Black applicants to apply.
For me, I think that Damon kind of mentioned it, is that I think people are scared of the car business because of the hours, and also because of commission. So in my stores, I started offering, salary, plus units bonuses instead of, commission, because when a lot of people, and especially us of color, when we start talking about commission, we get afraid. Oh, so if I don't sell anything, I don't eat. We've got to be able to offer a different way until they get into the business, understand it, and then move to the commission thing if that's what they want to do. And then, the hours, we can't, my old mantra used to be 9 to 9 all the time, Sundays noon till 8. And that's what I worked for like 4 or 5 years. And for me, and Jeff knows that, but I don't really think that we need to work like that anymore. And so that, working more of a flexible schedule and be able to offer something a little bit different other than, come in and sell a car and you eat. If you don't, you won't.
Yeah, that's really good. Sanari, what would you say? How do we attract more Black people? I'm talking about the industry, not just retail, but manufacturers, vendors, everything.
But yeah, exactly. When you talk about it, I was hanging out. I'm working on a project with Quincy Jones, and this tracks is really important. And we were in New York and looking down at a group of people, and there was a Black woman who was dressed just unbelievably compared to just everyone else, right? And he looks at me and goes, "Imagine if they let her be an architect." And literally, that thought blew my mind. Imagine what kind of cars we would have, the kind of buildings we would have if we let her, you ain't never wanted to, and we were joking that you want to go to her party, right? And you wouldn't want to go, you want to go to her party, you want to dress like her, you want to be like her. So I think one of the places that when I go to Art Center College of Design, that's design school. Every person I know, it's explaining about design school, the sales. What do you think is buying? I mean, the Black women they don't have as much money, but they have way more control of it, and they get more control of it sooner. So who is making all the automotive decisions in the Black community? It's the woman, even if she doesn't have the money, right? She's making so many more. So my sister is a perfect example. She lives in Colorado Springs. She runs her husband died, and she's a pastor, and she took over his church, and she went out, even though I'm her brother, and her mother is Dorothy Clinton, an auto worker. For Ford, she went out and bought a pickup truck with cash because she needed one, because that's what she does. And if you don't get that consumer, right, that to me is the fun is in tracking those consumers. I have 3 women who are asking me about Q7s right now, right? Or what kind of large SUV to buy, because when they go, they're serious. And I think about when I think of the women my mom, I've gone into dealerships with my mother. I don't know anything. And people talk to my mother, who literally knows every part of the car, right? Because it's ridiculous. However, I think it's pointing out those sales opportunities, whether it's in marketing, whether it's on the floor, whether it's designing the actual car, being engineers, or even working on the floor in Detroit. Who's going to lead those people? Every one of those pressure points has a place for a minority or a woman, for a Black person specifically, especially in the American auto industry, and a woman of color. There's so much room and so much growth, and it's going to attract so many more consumers and help to change the industry.
So speaking of high fashion, I want to jump to the Amanda Gordon, who, if you have been on her social media, she's not your typical car dealer.
No,
I mean, she is.
Although I am wearing a plaid jacket today, that was not by design, and I'm trying to change the stigma of the used car dealer, and I got a plaid jacket on. I need a cigarette hanging out of my mouth.
Right. Well, and so thinking of you, and you have your own personal brand that is very different than your normal independent car dealer, right? Or the stereotype of that. But how have you been able to attract more diversity, or how can we attract more diversity?
I think that's how, is by being myself, and showing people that there's a new face to used cars, to the car industry, and it looks like me, and it sounds like me, and it talks like me, walks like me, and all of my authenticity, non-apologetically myself every day. And that's one of the positives of me being an independent, though. I don't have a franchise that I have to answer to, Dan. I can make my building pink. That's one of the joys of being in this industry, though. Again, I can't stress enough, it's cars. It should be fun, exciting, sexy. This is the second largest purchase people make in their lives. It should be an experience. And so I bring that to every single car deal, but I am passionate about it, and so that's how I attract. And I'm always recruiting, right? I'm recruiting at Starbucks. I'm recruiting when I go upgrade my cell phone. I'm like, have you ever thought of the car business? And I look for people that look like me, because I think that's a natural instinct. And so I am constantly recruiting and enticing people to get into the car industry. And like the lady at the jewelry store, when I say I'm a used car dealer, they're like, what? Yeah, you can do it too. Ma'am, have you ever thought about it?
you know what?
Women are successful at selling jewelry. And so I'm ABC, always be closing.
Always
looking for new talent. And I do have flexible schedules for my staff, but I do want to be clear, right? In any industry, you got to put in work to be successful at the top of the food chain, right? I'm first one in, last one out. I'm a single mom of a teenage boy going through some things, but I still will outwork anyone in this building. And even with Carrie, right? Carrie is at 9 to 5, but my sister works from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6-7 days a week. And she's a VP because of it. So yes, you can have a flexible schedule in this industry, but don't think you're going to get to the top by being average, right? You got to put in the work, just like a doctor, just like a lawyer, just like any other industry. To get to the top, you got to put in the hours. I know Damon's always working,
yes,
and he's the president of an association, a national association. So yes, we have flexible hours, right? And you can have a quality of life in the car business, because we do need to change that narrative for the upcoming generations. Commission does scare them. And so I have an amended pay scale also that's enticing. But again, my top producer works almost as much as me, almost, right?
But,
and tell them the big checks.
But what I'm guessing is, like, I think the difference is that your top producer is probably not being forced to work from 9 to 9, every day, right? It's like a voluntary. And I love what Dan is saying, is that I'm giving people an entry point in where they can come in and have something where it's like, you're walking into the pool as opposed to just diving into the, the deep end initially. And then if you want to dive in the deep end, you do that. So, but I want to jump in and ask, because I think that we can all do a better job as an industry, as people. Amanda, I got recruited. I was at work, somebody said, hey, you'd be a good car salesman. Come across the street and come check out this Lexus dealership.
Yep.
True story. That's how I started selling cars. But I think what we need to also talk about is, how do we retain the talent and how do we develop it once we have it? Because, and I want to set the foundation for this, because a lot of people have touched on this. You didn't see a path for yourself. I didn't see a path for myself. By the time I hit sales manager in the incredibly diverse Southern California car market, there weren't any other Black folks at my level or higher. So I didn't see a path for development. I sure didn't see a path for ownership, right? So how do you retain and how do you develop people to get to the position where they could be, if they want to be in the industry, where they can be a Dan, or they can be an Amanda, or if they want to go to outskirts of the industry where they can be a Sonari or a Jeff,
right.
or a Matt or a Damon. So let's spend, we only have a couple minutes left, but let's spend our time talking about that. How do we retain these folks, and how do we develop them so they can hit their highest potential? And I'm going to start that question with you, Damon.
Okay. Well, these millennials are a lot different. And, when I first got into business, I went in there for one thing, and that was to have a job and make money. Millennials, they need to know and see a career path. So if I'm sitting down with a new a salesperson or a service advisor or whatever, I'm trying to tell them these are the steps that you need to take, and these are the things that you need to do in order. This is what your career path is going to look like. First, obviously, we want to find out what their career goals and aspirations are. But if you want to move up in this business, if you want to become a team leader or manager, whatever, these are the things that you need to do. And we'll sit down and cover these metrics with them on a weekly basis to show them how they're doing. So hey, the idea, and Jeff and I, we went through the same thing with the organization that we're at. They kind of gave us a career path, but it took a lot longer. Mm-hmm. And if you can show them, for one, you said, well, they have to see it. Well, they're sitting in front of somebody that's done it and seeing that, hey, I started selling cars and this is where I am now, and this is what I did, and these are the steps that you need to take. And obviously for me, when I'm recruiting people, the number one thing that I want to do is provide a positive work environment and keep it always that they can see where they are now, so they know what they need to do in order to get to where they want to be. And for me, I tell people right straight out, I want to be able to, my legacy I want to be is to be able to put people in business, to be able to not wait for 30 years it took me to become a dealer. I want to be able to do that in a much quicker time frame.
Well, Dan, and I find that when organizations are led by diversity, like a person of color, a woman, in Amanda's case, a lot of times you see more diversity. It's just, even in companies I've worked in, the departments that were led by a diverse leader typically had more diversity. So it says a lot about those unconscious biases that, how people kind of gravitate to people that look like them on the opposite end. Right? When you see a department all look the same. So I think it's so important that we get more leaders, because it kind of, it pushes diversity in many cases. Jeff, I want to have you answer that question from a retention standpoint. How do we retain and grow Black employees in automotive?
It's funny that I'm listening to the panel, and, I had a unique seat at NADA first, teaching in the academy, teaching financial management. And I would oftentimes say that nobody ever loved me enough to send me to the academy. But God blessed me 22 years in to be able to instruct at the academy. And so when I look at these classes, and you have as few as 20, 25, as many as 40, 45, Damon, you went through with some others as well. Damon, I think the class that you went through had more minorities in it because you were in it and brought some folks with you, but you typically see one a Black or brown face per class. My mind harkens back to two people. First of all, Ralph Giles. I got to give a shout out to Ralph Giles. I spent 3.5 years of my automotive career at Chrysler, and this was the cat who was born to Haitian immigrants in New York. Went to Canada, came back to the United States for his university studies, and he was drawing car designs literally at 8 years old. And at 14, his aunt sent a car design to then chairman of Chrysler, Lee Iacocca, and their design involved. No, Ralph Giles designed the most decorated new car ever in the 300, the Dodge Charger. And I remember working for Chrysler at the time, and I was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, on the West Shore. And I had dealers say that we've never had clients like this coming to our showroom because the car has so much appeal. Man, my field car was a black 300 with then 18-inch chrome wheels and the sunroof. And people would stop me, black, white, old, young, what is that? And that was that kind of thing, speaking to what Sanara was mentioning before. But my mind harkens when you asked the question about retention to a speech that Booker T. Washington gave in 1895 called the Atlanta Compromise. And what he was talking about was the state of Blacks' education as entrepreneurs and as economic developers. And when I associate that to where I am right now at NADA, I want everybody to understand a few things. First of all, the Ford Motor Dealer Development. I'm sorry, the Ford Motor Minority Dealer Development Association, Minority Dealer Association, forgive me, has a program set up in accordance with NADA to send people who are of high potential through the NADA Academy and not have to pay for it. Toyota, literally, the ink is just drying on an agreement from a couple of weeks ago where Toyota Motors has aligned with NADA to send minorities, ethnic minorities, and gender minorities, not only to the NADA Academy, if they're currently at GM or in GME with GM evaluation, but also the professional series for the mid-level managers, for new sales managers and new office managers and new parts managers and service managers. They can go as well, be identified, and Toyota Motors pays for that. So we can get them in and get them through. Education in this game, and Dan, you can speak to this, and Damon, you know all too well. We've seen the stories. Well, by the time we do get a shot, first of all, we have to battle for a decent point. We have to battle for a decent location in a decent market. Then you have to be capitalized. But outside of that, you have to do more besides sell. So the blessing was that I had an opportunity to go to the academy and teach financial management. But if you can sell or put all the girls in the books as possible, but you don't know how to read a statement, you're putting money in one pocket and you got a hole in the other one, and you walking around and you wondering what happens at the end of the day. So those types of things, developing a pipeline of training, developing a pipeline of education. Listen, call me, text me. Let's find a partner, find a way. Damon has done a great job over the years of pairing people and things up in the industry to get them exposed and educated. And no, you will not come out with car business guru after going to the academy or dealing with the professional series. But that, with your practical experience, gives you a leg up of understanding the scope of the business, so we can shorten the learning curve. So when we do get the opportunities, we aren't bumping our heads against the ceiling, of our potential, because we can't see beyond what we do right then. It's a very, very big, lucrative business, and it's like having a CarMax as your used car department, a new car store as your new car department, and Ollie's auto parts store as your parts division, and a Meineke as your service department.
Right.
You need to get as much out of every area and know how to count your pennies, and it's impossible to do so. All the intestinal fortitude on the planet doesn't help you know how to read a statement unless somebody brings you along. So that's our responsibility, both from NADA's perspective formally, and our responsibility as minorities in the business. We need to put our arms around each other, do some things, and bring each other along, because that's what's going to be necessary. Just my take, but we can have our hand out waiting for years. If we're in 2021, the auto industry has been around in the dealership model since 1897, and we still have less than 7% minority ownership at the dealership level. I'm not going to wait for an OEM program or for somebody else to tell me what I need to do. I'm going to grab a book, find a friend, and make some way to understand the game that I'm getting into. So not only can I have it, but I can keep what I got.
You can keep
and
it.
the church said, amen.
The church said, amen.
And Jeff, I love it, because
Pass the collection
I'm thinking about myself and the people that I've been around who have gone with muscle is going to take you to the top of the mountain. I don't believe that that's true. I think muscle paired with education can help you get to the top of the mountain. But if you just don't know anything more than how to find a better sales process, but you don't know how to run a service department and nobody's showing you. So I think it's really important that you said that. We're going to wrap here, but I want to make sure that I get that same question. I want to hear Mr. Lester, if I may call on you.
So I'll echo everything what everyone just said. I would say we have to, as an industry, got to do a better job with getting people involved early. There's a slew of HBCUs, historically Hispanic-based conferences, colleges, and universities, as well as Asian, and none of the OEMs go. They go to maybe 2 or 3. So in order for them to attract, they got to go to where we are, and they're not. It's okay to go to the University of Michigan. Say, well, it's okay to go to these Tier 1, Division 1 schools, in which we have them as well. But if you really want to be serious in what you want to do, you got to go where we are. Because we do a speaker series, and I go to historically Black colleges and universities, and I bring some OEMs with me, and I bring a dealer with me, and it blows these kids away, young adults away, because they don't have access to it. And all they think about is as Amanda mentioned, I got a plaid jacket on. It's not sexy. No, you look sexy.
You look great, Amanda.
Yeah, but the
Weird.
yeah, puppy collar. But that's where we don't present our industry as being sexy, and it is. And you can earn a heck of a living at all levels of our industry if we get access to it and we get opportunity to it. And that's how we often can retain it.
Damon, I'm gonna steal something from that Matt has said before, but you talk about go where we are, and let's talk about sports, right? Because the auto industry understands sports, and you think about Major League Baseball. They have development leagues in the Dominican Republic, in Japan, in China, in every corner of the earth, because they want to find that 8-year-old Dominican kid who might not have a lot of money, but is going to be a major star in America playing baseball one day.
Right.
And that's why they go out. And when you think about recruiting diversity, we don't put enough effort, like you're saying, into going where we are. What about the trade schools? What about getting people in high school to be service technicians and all these other professions? But we got to find them, and it has to be intentional. Right, not accident.
Well, if you to the Biden administration said they got to bring back trade in the schools. Trade pretty much is real prominent, Jeff, in Detroit. You don't see many trade schools anymore.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You don't have that shop anymore. Right. And so we got to bring those types of curriculums back at that high school level, just so that we can have access to it.
Yeah, Sonari, you were going to say something.
I mean, I was gonna say, yeah. Well, I don't know if we're gonna get trade schools are gonna come back because of the way that people think about it. And I do think as somebody who glances up against the auto industry, you gotta be honest. It is, the kids aren't wrong, right? When I go to an auto show, I gotta wear a suit and things like that. And you look at Silicon Valley and like, I don't have to be bothered with all of this nonsense, right? I think about. I mean, there's some ways in which, if you want the hip hop generation, and we're starting to get old, that's me, like maybe relaxing some of the 1897 rules. But another thing is that you want to keep us, hire us, promote us, and treat us well. This is a really important thing. This is a universal stat. The numbers bear it out. CEOs of companies who are hired from within do better than CEOs of companies who are hired from without, because the person on average, because that person has been looking around, looking at the problems. So if you're in your stores or in your places, there probably is someone already right now who's probably having to fight a civil rights revolution on one side and do their job, right? And so if you can make it easier for them or be creative just in your business, look around you. There is probably somebody who you are not thinking of because you're looking for someone that looks like you, whether you're a black man, a black woman, or something like that. There is someone there right now. My mom worked for Ford for 32 years. I have covered the industry for 12 or more. I have not met one person who blew my mind, who was so much smarter than my mama. Right? That means that there's and she never made it past the second level in the auto industry. And I swear to God, just look in your organizations. There's somebody, she memorized every single part of the car. Still to this day, can tell you everything. She's like an external hard drive. If somebody had given her a chance, I think maybe the Taurus would have lasted longer, right? Look in your organization. I mean, and all the numbers bear it out. I'm an economics reporter. They're just facts. It's Amanda Gordon is selling. I mean, when you look at the black girls that I go to teach in Georgia journalism, they look to see the people who look like them now. They're less. There used to be a time when the fancy women on the Upper East Side didn't want what the black girls wanted. That ain't true no more. It's not true anymore. And so if you're thinking about where the future is likely, I really do believe, is look at the Black girl because she hasn't got a chance, and imagine what if you would want to look at her hair. If she can look at what she can do with her hair, imagine what she could do, how creative she can be if you give her a chance in any other place. And look at where Ed Welburn came from Howard. I mean, that's a story that should make everybody cry. He applied to 16 schools. No one took this man in. And then Howard created a program for him. And then he designed everything that you think you would, like he's like an industry genius.
Right.
Because someone looked at Howard. That's all they had to do is go to Howard. Let alone, Mary Bethune-Cookman or
Florida A&M, South Carolina State, all that.
Yeah, we're out there and we're in your organizations. Just look to us and treat us well.
Oh God, you have fed me, Sonari. You have fed me. Amanda, I'm gonna give you the last word before we wrap up. We went long, but let me just tell you, you guys can't see the comments, but people are just complimenting this and saying how good it is and how they're learning, and so I love it. So we're gonna go long, but Amanda, last word. How do we retain more Black people and develop them and grow them in this business?
Oh, Sonari hit the nail right on the head. Treat them well. Right. And in the automotive industry, we are known to keep our people dumb. Right. we can't let them see the back screen. They can't know the cost of the cars. Like, you go to your sales manager. What does this mean? Don't worry about that. Just get a commitment. Right. And so for me, I work it a little bit different. I want them educated because they're dealing with an educated consumer. So I don't tell them everything, but I tell them a lot more than what I was taught because I want them empowered and I want them to be able to gradually level up because I am trying to create more Amandas, right? That is my goal. And not everybody's meant to be an owner, right? But maybe they become a GSM, maybe they become a GM, maybe they go to a franchise store and become director of sales, AutoNation, right? And they learn that from Gojo Auto. Right. So empowering them and giving them a little bit more information so that they feel comfortable and confident in taking the next leap, so that they don't feel restricted, so that they don't feel silly or stupid, or that I don't care because I don't give them the information they ask for. Now, again, they don't know everything because some stuff just isn't for them to know, but they know a lot more than when I started in 2002 and it was like, get me a commitment or go home.
Yes. Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much, and gal so much. This is why there are organizations like NAMAD out there doing the work to attract more minorities, people of color, Black people to the business. And Matt, I got to throw in WOCAN. I don't know if you have WOCAN's website. You better have WOCAN's website.
That's right, Matt.
I do. NADA, right? We got to give NADA props. This year, chairman of NADA, one of the 4 major initiatives is going to be diversity and inclusion, which is huge for our business. So kudos to NADA, and Jeff, keep up the good work at NADA. And then I don't know if WOCAN's next, but all right, WOCAN, Women of Color Automotive Network. Amanda and I are founders, along with Erica Wells and Patrice Banks, and we're trying to really be even more intentional in targeting women of color. As Sonari said, if we win, then everybody wins. Right. So thank you guys so much for being on this panel. I gotta say, Matt, I don't know about you, but I let my hair down for about an hour and 20 minutes, and it felt good to be an automotive, but also just be with my people.
Right.
It's, what's funny, I got more Black folks on this screen right now than I did at the dealerships I worked at for the first, I don't know, probably decade. But, one of the things is I'm not going to speak for you, Carrie, I'm going to speak for myself. One of the things that I think about when we're putting things like this together is like, how many people care? Is it just me and the people within my circle who care? But based on the reactions that we've been getting in real time, based on the engagement that we've been getting in real time, people care. And this is not just a person of color conversation. This is an America conversation. This is an auto industry conversation. So I would encourage everybody who was on this call who actually got something from it, have a watch party, share it.
Can I real quick? I can see the comments, and I just got to give a shout out to Dan, because Angela Freeman says this dynamic platform is admirable. I'm grateful to Dan to be a Black female manager in his dealership. Continue to pull us up with you, sir. You are all winners, and that's what I'm talking about.
That was a hell of a spiff, Dan. Make sure she gets her transition, Dan.
Cut the check.
Yes, I don't know if she was a plant, but it
Angela,
was Dan.
Angela sounds good though.
And
are y'all
she's
related?
not the only one. There's been so many comments, and I got to tell you, these aren't people of color that are commenting.
Right.
These are our allies. These are white men and women,
right,
primarily, that we're seeing comments for, and that's why we wanted to do this. We didn't want to do this to talk to ourselves.
We already know this stuff.
Right. All too well.
Yes. So thank you so much. We're going to continue this conversation, and we hope to have you guys back beyond just Black History Month, because this is a conversation that needs to be had the whole year long. So can I get your commitment to come back?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right, so
Amanda, Sanari, Dan, Damon, Jeff, and of course, Carrie. Thank you. Y'all made my day. Y'all made my month. This conversation is one for forever. So it's incredibly important. Always going to be remembered. Sincere thank you.
And Matt, let's just thank TrueCar for enabling us to have this conversation. Not everybody we invited to be on this panel could participate. Not every company would let their employees come on this panel and talk about this stuff, because it's too risky when it comes to race. So we appreciate TrueCar for giving us the platform to have these honest conversations. So thank you, TrueCar.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.